and this is the Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer reaction, the truth about Yasuke, the Black Samurai, which has been a very divisive topic. I've made a video on it, and the angle that I took on my video, if you guys didn't see it, was, yes, I feel like they are probably doing this for very DEI indulgent diversity pandering purposes. But I also feel like that is not the main issue with the game. The main issue with the game is, one, it's a fucking Ubisoft game. And second, it's a Ubisoft game they're trying to charge you $130 to get the full experience of, which is absolute bullshit. But I'm very interested in this video. I would like to see what it has to say, get my thoughts on it as well. All right, let's get into this reaction.
Hello, noble ones. Welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today we're talking about...
I already got a criticism. Noble Ones? I mean, Noble Ones is cool and all, but Noble Ones ain't fucking near as cool a name for your audience as the Vital Idols.
The new trailer that's been released by Ubisoft of the upcoming Assassin's Creed game, which is called Black Flag. Assassin's Creed's game, which is called Shadows, and this game is set in Japan.
If that was a double joke there, because one, Black Flag, as in Ubisoft just makes the same game over and over again, but also Black Flag because Black Samurai, like, that was a nice fucking joke. If that, maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but clever script writing on his part, that's the case.
But this trailer has generated a little bit of a sort of controversy, if you will. The protagonist, or one of the two protagonists in this game, hasn't been received the same way by all people. The issue at the basis of this discussion being the fact that even though the game is set in feudal Japan, you're not playing a Japanese character, but you're playing as a Black African samurai.
All right, so before we get into his thoughts on it, I'm curious. I'll even make a poll in the chat because I'm curious about what you guys have to think, where you stand on this. So yeah, let me get a poll going real quick. Do you care about Black Samurai? And then options will be yes, no, and in the middle. And the reason I'm adding that third option of being in the middle is because that's where I stand with it. Like, I've got criticisms with it, but also it's not the biggest criticism. So yeah, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. There's no wrong answer. I don't care what, again, I'm very very pro diversity, and by that I mean diversity of thought. So just answer honestly. Curious what you guys have to say. It was a decision made to capitulate to DEI. It's garbage. That's my stance. If someone just really wanted to make Yasuke the focus, then whatever. I just really doubt it. You and I have pretty much the exact same thoughts. Do you care about Black Samurai? It's all yes or in the middle. Fucking nobody says no, I don't care, which is fair. All right, fair enough. Well, I'm going to keep this poll going because there's only been 12 votes, but in the meantime, I'm going to continue with this.
As it's always the case in this situation, of course, this has become a new battleground for the culture war. And to be honest, I think that the comment section under that video is very well suited for the Sengoku period. With, on one side, people screaming and calling everyone racist and bigot for not liking the Black African character. And on the other side, people that are completely ignoring history, saying that such a character never existed, clearly being ready to die on that hill. As it's often the case, reality is somewhere in between. Video, I'll provide a professional, nuanced, and measured response which only looks at the facts and ignores the freaking culture war. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The character is indeed based on a real historical person called Yasuke, who was a Black African who lived in Japan precisely at the end of the Sengoku period. Not too long ago, I have made a video dedicated to him in collaboration with my friend Dario, who helped us with visualization, not only because, of course, he's Black, so he was reenacting Yasuke, but also because he happens to be the exact same height as the...
So I'm not familiar with this creator. I've seen one of his other videos before. The very first time I ever decided to do react requests, T-Gap Steve wanted me to react to just the very end of one of his videos. So I don't know this guy's political leanings. I don't know what his videos typically cover. I'm very unfamiliar with this content creator. However, I like the way he's talking about this. It seems like he's not going out of his way to be PC, but he's also not a reactionary. Like I'm getting the vibe that this guy is genuinely a true middle ground type of individual. And as long as he's doing that in good faith, I actually quite enjoy that's the route he's going about it.
historical Yasuke was. We had a great time. Of course, we're going to review the trailer together, also because I'm kind of curious to see, okay, but how did they represent this? Because very much will depend on that. But I would like to address the elephant in the room first and foremost, very quickly. You think that the comment section under that video trailer is bad? Well, get ready for absolute hell. Enter the Wikipedia page of Yasuke, which in the last couple of days has become an absolute battleground of editing, insults, and attacks. Look at how many edits have been made just in the last few days.
So Jimmy boy, yeah, you say he's always about facts and history. Well, see, there's the, like, I would not say that's a problem. I love channels that are like that. My question is, does he cherry pick sources for either side? Not necessarily in this video, just in general, because the problem with history is, well, history was written by the winners, or we have historical revisionists that don't like the way history is written about that are trying to change it. So when you say he's always about history, I will definitely grant you that and tell you that he is about history on good faith. I have trouble believing that really anybody, even myself at times, goes into everything with with hard stance on facts, just because for so many of these, historical, not just when it comes to like Yasuke or whatever, but really any sort of historical text, it's very difficult to use the word fact with all the historical revisionism we've seen throughout the course of human society.
Days, whether he was a samurai or not, while insulting each other. It's absolutely ridiculous. Who are you? Impressive English.
I have ever known them.
Okay, yeah, I can respect that. I can absolutely respect the shit out of that.
As always, these trailers look absolutely beautiful. It's stunning, but it's Ubisoft they're talking about, so don't pre-order until they show you actual gameplay.
Our customs.
All right, once again, mad respect. First of all, still don't pre-order, just to stick it to Ubisoft. Even if you want this game, even if you're an Assassin's Creed fan, do not fucking pre-order this game. They do not deserve it. Now, if a week goes by, a month goes by, you hear good things, it's not a glitchy, buggy, destructive mess, go for it, buy it. Do not buy on day one. No, never from this point forward. Never buy a AAA game day one. That is my request of you guys, because they have not fucking deserved it. That they've lost their right to that. Even I have fallen into the day one trap on a few different occasions and been just blatantly disrespected when I went to bat for these dumb fuck megacorps. So, other than that, like we were saying so far, I agree. Also, it seems like we got at least one person saying no, they don't care about Yasuke being the main focus of. Yeah, kudos to you for going against the grain. If that's what you really believe in the poll in the chat there. Right on.
My family.
Bingo.
Burns
Bingo,
in
Lon.
the name of unity.
Yeah, it's a Shinto shrine. That's what they do. They clap their hands because it's their way to attract the spirits of the nature, the kami, to their position. So they do that so that the spirits hear it, and then they pray. That's how they do it. But I've got to say, the armor looks amazing, so I'm really happy with that. I mean, we're a little spoiled, aren't we, with the likes of, for example, Ghost of Tsushima, which is another game that does the armor really well, but always love to see it. Okay, so she's clearly trained in combat, and that's pretty cool, though, that she is struggling against the fully armored samurai. That's something that I like seeing, because it's more realistic. I mean, it would have been really difficult to take a samurai in armor on, never mind two.
You are still a frog in a well.
Is that who I think it is?
Who knows nothing of the sea. The ocean's filled with new ships, but they all come from the same river. Greed.
Be interesting to see if they show some Western people, because I mean, if there is Yasuke, it means that automatically there are Jesuits already, if they are going to follow the history. So be nice to see the Jesuits represented. I'd like to see, at this time, some Jesuits would have been wearing orange as their color, although then some would have already been reverting to black. It kind of depends on who was the head. Be nice if they show that. So yes, they chose to go with Yasuke. As you can see, I think the model looks really cool. The hair is not really accurate if this picture does represent Yasuke, but as we can see here, he's absolutely represented as a fully fledged samurai. Is that historically accurate or not? We will dive into that, and I'll give you all the sources to answer this professionally. But for now, let's keep watching.
I like how he didn't give the answer there. He's like, to answer that, I'll give you all the sources. In other words, keep watching my video, knock that watch time up. I'm a professional YouTuber. Like, very, very well done, sir.
Power.
Yeah, I like this guy's voice as well.
Oh, look at those matchlock type arquebuses. They look great.
Vengeance.
All right, so I'm going to, again, I haven't seen this video. I don't know a whole lot about ancient Japan. So for those of you that know, I took Japanese studies for 2 years, and I was actually just talking with to Jana Banana about this earlier. I actually used to be conversational in Japanese. It's one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it. Now I only remember a few key phrases, but like I know a little bit about Japanese history. I'm no expert by any means. One of the things that this trailer to me is this wrong, that's off, is how prominent the katana is. Now, katanas did exist in Japan. So the Sengoku era is the 1400s, the late 1400s to mid 1500s or late 1500s. And katanas were around. They were actually first crafted in the 1200s, but katanas were not the main blade of choice until the Edo period, or maybe it was the Meiji period. Either way, the following era. So the fact that everyone in this trailer is walking around with katanas, that's not historically accurate. I don't know if he's going to comment on that, but if he's not, I figured I should go ahead and bring it up.
Of course, the fact that the blade went through the entirety of the armor of the opponent.
Yes, I do watch anime all the time. Anime is my fucking visual medium of choice. And I got to the point where I could watch anime without subtitles, and I would not understand everything, but I would understand enough to be able to follow the story. Like, to give you an idea of where my speaking level is at.
Opponent is nonsense, but the fact that he is so strong is in fact based on what we are told in the sources. We are told that he was extremely strong. Once again, a justification of this statement with a period source. On the 23rd of the second month, a blackamoor came from the Christian country. He appeared to be 26 or 27 years old, black over his whole body, just like an ox. This man looked robust and had a good demeanor. What is more, his formidable strength surpassed that of 10 men. I don't mind if they show him like lifting people up. I just wish he didn't go through both layers of armor.
And you... will you continue down that river?
As I often complain about, a samurai would never put the sword back in the scabbard before they cleaned the blade with a piece of cloth of the blood. So this idea...
I am so glad he's bitching about that, because I bitch about that same thing all the fucking time, whether it be in video games or anime or movies. Like, all right, I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one that is that autistic about that.
Yeah, that you kill people and put the sword right back. I know it looks cool. We have seen it everywhere, all the way from like not only old movies, but also I want to say Way of the Samurai, which is one of my favorite series. It still is nonsense though. So it'd be nice if one day we see them do it at least once, just once, clean the freaking blade and then put it back in the scabbard. Otherwise, bye-bye sword maintenance.
Yeah, I'm liking this so far. This is a very, very good video.
Or choose another path.
Right, so that's the reveal, of course. They're showing us...
I only watched the first episode of Shogun. I fucking love first 2 episodes of Shogun. My buddy and I were watching it together. We were fucking loving it. We said we were going to keep watching it together. And then he has not started back up yet. So I have not started back up yet. And it's killing me because I want to watch more of Shogun. But the first 2 episodes of the show were just fucking fantastic.
Look, it's an African man. We checked the boxes. Yay. That's what they're doing. Of course, from an artistic standpoint, because let's remember, regardless of what you think of these sort of pushed inclusivity in these games, one thing that is important to underline is that 3D artists still should be praised for the work they've done, because it is exceptional. It looks fantastic.
I think that's a fair take. I mean, so that is a fair take about the 3D artists doing a great job. I will also say video games have looked fucking great like this for like 5 years now. So yeah, praise the artist, but this also isn't necessarily anything out of the ordinary. And I'll give it that.
Beyond what we see.
And we must look for it together.
That's fair. That's fair, Griffin.
She's wearing the
No.
sword
So
on her.
Female shinobis are called kunoichis, and so shinobi just means, if I remember right, shinobi it either means ninja or just flat out means warrior. And kunoichi is a female, is specifically a female ninja. But yes, they are still a shinobi. They are just so if shinobi is an umbrella term, kunoichi is under the umbrella of it.
Back. There are a few images that show that, but usually was done with massive swords and, of course,
right
outside of the field of battle. Well, right now she's not on the field of battle, but a sword like that, it would be normally worn on the side or on your hips. As I say, just massive swords were carried that way.
We must learn to trust, rebuild.
And follow the blade.
Yeah, the fact that the child looked at the black.
Okay, so I want to hear his take on this. Before I hear his take, I want to just add, posit the question to you all. Look, whether Yasuke's in the game, whether he's a fucking real character or whatnot, whether it's for DEI stuff, all that it doesn't matter to the question I'm about to ask. This is an Assassin's Creed game. Assassins are meant to blend in, to get in, get out unnoticed. I'm going to be honest. To me, it fucking does defeat the purpose of having a man who is giant and black who would absolutely stand out. He wouldn't do, in my opinion, like that would not be a very efficient assassin, in my opinion. So, again, that's a very weird choice just from a writing perspective of a game literally called Assassin's Creed.
Black man, and she was like, oh my gosh, that would have been exactly how the Japanese would have reacted. Also because of the height difference, not just the skin color, which of course was something that they did notice. In fact, as we do have mentioned specifically about that. But
that is the correct pronunciation though, like kunoichi. Like maybe they like held out the E too long or something. Maybe that's what you're talking about. But yeah, kunoichi is the correct pronunciation. She's the assassin, not him, apparently. Which, again, maybe the story will make it make sense. I won't lie. I won't know because I will never play this game. I never played any Assassin's Creed game after the first one, which I really liked. And I watched my friend play through the second and third and liked the story of them. But to me, Assassin's Creed is just like Call of Duty or Pokemon. It's effectively the same game released every couple of years, and I've got no interest in that. Oh, where's his parrot? Gotcha.
But apart from that, he was extremely tall. In fact, I did on my previous video, in order to kind of show you visually the stark difference, I had my friend Dario wear samurai armor and then having him stand next to my mom, well, my late mom now, unfortunately, but right next to her, because she kind of has the average height of a Japanese.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to call you. That's not correct, Daxnar. The only again, I'm going off of when I took the classes for a few years, fucking 10, 12 years ago, but the only letter that you traditionally don't pronounce at the end of a word is the letter U. So like when you see SU, like in Yasuke, the U sound is silent. But when you see an I at the end, like in Genki or Denki, like you do pronounce the final I. So yes, kunoichi, you do say the final I with an E sound.
Of that era, so you can see the stark contrast. I have nothing against the creative freedom of developers when they decide to set a game somewhere and decide what sort of story they want to tell. There's absolutely nothing wrong from that point of view for Ubisoft to decide, hey, we want to tell a story of this specific historical character. However, we need to be honest, and let's stop the gaslighting here. We know exactly why they're doing it, and they're not doing it for creative freedom. They're doing it for DEI, inclusivity, representation. And another thing that we do need to say is the fact that even though absolutely I'm sure that there will be people, probably a minority of people in those comments that are actual racists that are taking the excuse of historical accuracy to hate on the character, but in reality they hate him just because he's black, we also need to take into consideration the fact that that's not the case for everyone who doesn't like this specific character choice. And it is...
Bam! Homie hits the nail on the head here. So much of Assassin's Creed is historical revisionism for fictional entertainment purposes. And if that was the only reason they were doing it for, bro, no fucking problem. Tell whatever artistic, creative story you want. But he is right. It's fucking, that is not why they are doing this. He's literally been saying the exact goddamn thing that I've been saying, and that probably a lot of others have as well. Oh, you're saying they didn't say it like I am. Okay, fair enough. Well, if they're not saying it like I was saying it, then yeah, they were pronouncing it wrong. You're right there.
Very wrong to just point the finger at people and call them racists just because they say they don't like this choice. It doesn't automatically make them racist. In fact, if you look at what the Assassin's Creed series has been doing and has done throughout its entire existence, is that Assassin's Creed's origin is set in Egypt, the protagonist is Egyptian.
Opposite of Hondo. Well, I named Hondo after the Star Wars character because he's a parrot, and Hondo in Star Wars is a pirate. So I thought I would name the parrot after the pirate because pirates have parrots. So I don't know. I guess his phone would be named after a Star Trek character. So his phone would be Data. Bam! There it is. Good joke, Leon. You got this. Let's keep going.
Another game is set in Norse Scandinavia. The protagonist is a Norse. Then they have Assassin's Creed 2 set in medieval or Renaissance Florence. Then Ezio Auditore can't get more Italian than that. So the fact that this one is set in Japan, it just makes sense that a fan of the series could say, well, yeah, but why isn't the...
Like, you see what I had to put up with? He jacks my tea, dude. He just gets in there and starts drinking my tea. Oh, this fucking bird, I swear. Man, show off for a sec, Hondo. Just, there you go. Get yourself a nice big drink. Give the people what they love. Oh, okay. Or just chill out on my microphone. That works too.
The character Japanese, and that doesn't make them racists. Let's stop this sort of hatred as well, because then you're showing the wrong. All right, let me give you some facts now about Yasuke. Talk about whether he was a samurai or not, and then we get back to the rest of the trailer. So, was Yasuke a samurai? Was he just a retainer? Was it just a guy who was carrying swords? What is the truth?
All right, so I am going to lay this one out here. This is where I disagree with my contemporaries in the anti-woke space. Retainers were treated as samurai. That maybe not all of them, but yes, that was very common for retainers to effectively be underling samurai. That is historical fact. Now, whether Yasuke was or not, I don't know. I don't know much about the history of Yasuke, but when people say, oh, he wasn't a samurai, he was a retainer, retainers were basically samurai light. Like, that is what they were. So, yes, it is, again, that is one of the points where I have disagreements with people like, Badger, Hypno, things like that. Yes, retainers, no issue with calling them samurai. None at all.
What do the sources say? Yasuke is a historical character. He was a black African. We don't know what his real name was, and we don't know from which part of Africa he came from, with the two most likely possibilities being either Sudan or Mozambique. We know that as a child he was sold as a slave. He was already very tall and quite strong when he was delivered in India. He trained as a warrior, had experience in battle, and eventually will start working for the Jesuits. And it was in fact the Jesuits that brought him with them in the late 15th century to Japan. When he entered Japan, Yasuke was working for a specific priest and missionary by the name of Alessandro Valignano from Chieti in the Kingdom of Naples. And this will be the man that will eventually gift him to Oda Nobunaga, who was a man that we all know, very important feudal lord of the late Sengoku period in Japan, whose character and personality, as we read the records, demonstrate that he had a fascination for anything Western. Not only he liked the Jesuits, he liked what they brought, he liked the sort of armor that they would bring from Europe. He even granted the Jesuits land in order for them to be able to build a Western-style church, and then he even expanded it. And one of the characteristics of Oda Nobunaga was his fascination for things that were rare. Let me justify this with a period source. The veteran brought him along by the way of paying respects to Nobunaga. Indeed, it was owing to Nobunaga's power and his glory that yet unheard of treasures from the three countries and curiosities of this kind came...
Honestly, that's not a fucking bad way to put it. You may have been trying to make a joke there, Gemini, but that's a pretty fair analogy.
To be seen here, time and again. A blessing indeed. And just like everyone else in feudal Japan, when he saw Yasuke being not only as black as it gets, but being also a massive man, he was 188 centimeters tall, he decided to hire him not only as a retainer, but as far as we know, as someone who would go with him everywhere he would go. Yes, carry his swords, but that wasn't just the only thing he would do. He was basically a bodyguard. Now, the discussion whether he was actually given the title samurai or not is harder to answer. And the reality is that we don't know. But it is equally important to say that there are quite a few people who are very respected in academia who do think that he was indeed made samurai. We are
Now, you guys have said that this individual who we're reacting to, what Metatron, is that what he is? That Metatron hates historical revisionism, and I appreciate that about him if that's true. That's great. But when he says people that are respected in academia, well, we know how modern day academia is. So I want to know who these individuals are, where they're from. Like, are we talking about Japanese historians? Are we talking about Western historians from the 60s onward? Like, where we okay, Jimmy Boy says keep watching. Fair enough. Yes, I agree. Hashtag in Kotaku. Absolutely.
Going to read the most important mentions that we have from the period about Yasuke right now on this video. But the first question I have when it comes to the actual record is the following. Do we have a mention, a specific mention that tells us Yasuke was a samurai? Well, the answer is no, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he wasn't. Allow me to elaborate. The lack of any mention of him being samurai in any record of the period is often brought up as a proof, if you will, of him not being samurai, because if he was given the title of samurai, then they would have written it. However, after speaking with Professor Thomas Lockley, author of the book African Samurai, he shared with me something very interesting. Thomas brought up very interesting points when it comes to this in the emails that he sent to me. And something that is important to consider is that even though the word samurai in Japanese did exist at the time, it wasn't used as much as it is today. A little bit like the word ninja, if you will, that was, as far as we know, was not used in period, maybe late Edo period, but in the Sengoku period and even before that, shinobi no mono would have been the way people would have called a ninja. Similarly, the word samurai existed, but there were many other alternatives, one of which would be bushi, for example, even though it's a bit of an umbrella term, but many others. And then when it comes to ranks, you had hatamoto. And then depending on what sort of job, for example, a specific warrior was doing, it would be called by that specific job. But in general, we'll have to wait another 20 years before the word samurai starts being used formally in documented evidence from the time of Yasuke. So the simple fact.
All right. So real quick, I want to bring this up. Share this tab real quick. So I Googled Thomas Lockley, the individual that wrote that book. Thomas Lockley is an associate professor at Nihon University College of Law in Tokyo, where he teaches courses about international and multicultural history of Japan and East Asia. So this guy is a Westerner who clearly is well versed enough in Japanese history to be teaching at Nihon University in Tokyo. So that, I will say, those credentials, in my opinion, do lend him some fair credence. Just want to get that out there.
That no one said he was a samurai is not automatic evidence that he wasn't, because they weren't using that word in the sources. Now, you know that I'm not a huge fan of Wikipedia as a source, but it's important to have a look at it. Now, let's dismiss for a moment the English Wikipedia, since it's being probably changed 17 times since I started this recording, and let's have a look at the Japanese one. In the Japanese Wikipedia, we do find the word samurai, but only in connection with pop culture. But we do find an interesting passage that, when translated, tells us.
Well, so I don't know. You might need to elaborate, but I'm not entirely sure. But I first of all, I disagree with this if I'm interpreting it the way you meant for it. So again, you might have to elaborate. But let's take the beanie I'm wearing, for example. Let's say that the word beanie didn't exist yet. Let's say these were called let's say they were called tube caps, and the word beanie wouldn't go around for wouldn't come about for another 20 years. If somebody were to do a a documentary on anti-woke YouTubers in 100 years, and there was I get brought up and be like, oh, well, Leon never wore a beanie. Well, I mean, I did. They just weren't called beanies yet, but the tube hat would go on to be called a beanie. Like, that's what he's getting at, is if the word wasn't around at the time, then of course it wouldn't be documented with that word at the time, which is, again, that's actually pretty common in history, because languages change, evolve. gay is not used as happy anymore. It's now meant dudes who fuck other dudes. Like, so again, unless you mean something different, and if you want to elaborate, feel free. Right, but as I currently interpret it, I disagree with your statement here.
Us that according to Japanese Wikipedia, he was made into a bushi. Now, is bushi an absolute equivalent of samurai? No. In the sense that all samurai are bushi, but not necessarily all bushi are samurai. Bushi is a bit of a broader term. And even though, once again, in the modern usage they have become synonymous, they weren't necessarily in period. Still, if we are told that he was indeed called a bushi, well, at least it would tell us that he wasn't just the guy that carries stuff around, but he was indeed some kind of warrior recognized by the local authorities. So what do they base this statement on? Once again, massive thanks to Thomas for this one, but we also have an unpublished extract which reads, "This black man called Yasuke was given a stipend, a private residence, etc., and was given a short sword with a decorative sheath. He's sometimes seen in the role of a weapon bearer." So as you notice, the role of the weapon bearer is indeed mentioned, but it's not the only characteristic that defines Yasuke and his position within the social scale.
Close, yeah. It'd be with an I, like Philip says here. Bushi, and it's tied to Bushido, and yeah. But fair enough. This is just French bush, which, knowing what I know about French women, yeah, checks out.
Scale and his rank. So saying he was just the guy who carried the sword of Nobunaga, apart from the fact that would have been an honor, but is not accurate. We also read, returning from the campaign against Takeda in 1582, a relative of Ieyasu wrote, "Lord Nobunaga gave the black man who the missionary presented him with a stipend. His skin was black like ink, and he was around 6.2 shaku tall. He was called Yasuke." It would be very rare that a foreigner could be nominated samurai, but it's not unheard of because, of course, we all know about William Adams, the English samurai, and he was indeed a foreigner. It's a little bit of a later tale with kind of a 30 years difference, 30, 40 years difference from the period of Yasuke, but it is still very close. And we see that, in fact, it does happen, in that case with Tokugawa Ieyasu, that sometimes foreigner could indeed become samurai. We also know that the Jesuit reported about a promotion that he received, becoming a tono. Now, we don't know what that means, but it is likely that it meant that he was now in line for a fief of his own. If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth.
Oh, I guess I can't sub while it's in full screen mode, but...
On the 21st of June 1582, Oda Nobunaga was betrayed by the likes of Akechi Mitsuhide, who was a vassal of his. Now, during this entire incident, of which we'll have a look at a few of the reports, something interesting and even significant happens. He survives. Now, if he had become a samurai after the death of his lord, well, he should have been forced to commit seppuku, or harakiri as is more commonly known in the West. So on one side, this could speak towards the idea of, well, yeah, but so he was a warrior but not samurai. On the other hand, though, it is possible that they were going to do that, but then his life was spared precisely because he wasn't Japanese, and therefore they thought, you know what, yeah, he made you a samurai, but he doesn't need to die like that. And his life was spared. That's also a way to read it. Up to you to decide. Right, so first of all, the castles look great, as it's always the case, really. I mean, Japanese castles are always, whether it be Sekiro, whether it be the Way of the Samurai, whether literally they always look great. But now,
all right, so he's saying the Japanese castles look great. However, Japanese Twitter was melting down because, according to them, the structures looked Chinese. So I don't know where the discrepancy is. I mean, I won't lie, I'm more inclined to take the Japanese at their word, considering it's, they're fucking Japanese. But obviously this is also this guy's specialty, history, whatnot. So up in the air. I don't know enough about fucking Asian architecture to know one way or the other. All right, let's get back to this reaction.
Now we see a little bit of Shinobi action, I think. So it seems like he's the samurai, but she's a bit more of a spy, I imagine.
Yeah, I work Wednesday through Saturday.
Yeah, the combat looks really cool. Of course, the idea of a single kunoichi who takes on so many armed samurai in full battle.
You say watch enough anime and I'll see the difference. That doesn't really help if I don't know what the comparison is, though. I don't know anything about Chinese architecture, so I would have nothing to compare the Japanese to the Chinese architecture, you know?
Gear is nonsense. That's complete fantasy. Real kunoichi, as far as we know, or in general, the idea of the shinobi, it's not that you just take on fully armored samurai like that. That would be suicidal. Also, because not all shinobi were trained in combat. But even if you were one of those who was sort of doubling as a warrior at the same time, so a samurai and shinobi at the same time, still you wouldn't do that if you were on a mission like this and you're wearing no armor. No, you would just try to infiltrate. And then if you do decide to do something and you do need to fight, yeah, you wouldn't do that. You would just flee. But then again, a little bit of a fantasy situation, and it does look really good for the choreography. I don't know how they didn't see him come in there, because one thing Yasuke cannot do, of course, is stealth, since, I mean, it's super tall and he's black in feudal Japan, but I don't think that that's the sort of gameplay that they expect you to do with him. And he's wielding a...
I'm really glad he called that out, because, I mean, again, that's something that literally I bitched about earlier, and okay, so you know what? That's fair. We on the same page, Metatron. I'm appreciating you. I'm liking where you're going. We on the same team. I'm picking up what you're putting down. And I will say, when watching this trailer, that moment did get me excited. You know, they knocked it out the part when he comes in, just uses the I know it's not a mace, but I don't know what the Japanese word would be. I was like, oh, that was super fucking awesome. And I was like, oh right, this is a CGI trailer, no gameplay, and just thought, fuck it.
Kanabo, so the sort of anti-armor weapon. I like that. That's pretty cool. I'm absolutely sure that if the original Sasuke, the historical one, had a kanabo in his hands, that would be quite scary to have to deal with for a Japanese warrior of the time. Like 100%. The guy was massive.
I said, who do you serve? We are the shadows.
That served the light.
Hey, the samurai died with honor. So as I'm concerned, full respect for the guy. He just went towards her. Okay, so yes, when we look at the way he fights, it's interesting that in the trailer we see that he's literally fighting like a samurai. The way he puts the sword back, he handles, looks exactly like a samurai would have fought. This would not be consistent with what we understand about Yasuke. And even William Adams, if you think about it. I mean, at the end of the day, just because you are getting a title, that doesn't automatically mean that you also acquire all the skills that a samurai would have learned over a space of, I want to say, 10 to 20 years. So even though it's very probable that historical Yasuke knew how to fight, it is also very likely that even if you gave him Japanese weapons, he wouldn't have fought like a Japanese, if you see the point I'm drawing. Now, when it comes to iconography, once again, we don't have much, and the situation is quite nebulous. But we do have one specific panel, this one here, that possibly is representing Yasuke, with Oda Nobunaga right next to him. Now, we don't know if that's the case, but it is interesting that this being an early 1600s piece of artwork, it is very probable that it's indeed depicting Yasuke, considering the fact of how rare an African man would have been in period in Japan. So it's probably as close as we can get. Unfortunately, we do not have any period representation of him wearing or donning full samurai armor. But as we read, we do know that he was given a weapon. Now, does the fact that he received a weapon automatically means that he was nominated samurai? No, because once again, I've seen this written sometimes, and people say, well, if he was given weapons, then automatically means he was samurai. Not necessarily. Ashigaru were carrying weapons. They weren't samurai. But it is noteworthy, and it was absolutely a token of honor that was given to a foreigner. So the only real answer we can present is the fact that we don't know. We cannot say for certain that Yasuke was a samurai, but we also cannot just dismiss it with the same level of certainty and say, no, he absolutely wasn't. As you see, he was given a stipend. As you see, he was given land. Therefore, it is possible that he was also given the title of samurai, but we don't know for sure, and it cannot be stated as a fact. So, after all of this, was Yasuke samurai? We don't know. Is it 100%? No. So this is the situation. But at the end of the day, I think what's really important here is to keep in mind people can like it, people can dislike it. And that doesn't make you neither a bigot if you don't like him.
Well, okay, so this I can't answer. Not necessarily. Like, so when he said earlier that Bushi was just a term for warrior, again, that didn't just extend to samurai. That was literally any warrior. So for him to be accepted into the Bushido code, he would just need to be accepted as a warrior, not necessarily a samurai. So you're again, I'd honestly be willing to bet money that yes, he actually was in fact a samurai or not, doesn't matter. He was a warrior, because historically, it's very much believed by the vast majority of people that Yasuke was a mercenary before he even came to Japan. Again, we don't know, but that's pretty agreed upon that he was some sort of mercenary. That's how he ended up with the Jesuits. He was the bodyguard of what's his name. So. Oh, okay. When you said it was unclear, I guess I was saying, okay, gotcha. I thought you were saying it'd be it's unclear that he's a samurai, and if he wasn't a samurai, he couldn't be, accepted in the Bushido code. Okay, my apologies. I just misunderstood what you meant.
Or a woke if you do like him. Let's try and keep an open mind. And as always, if you have any historical question, feel free to ask me in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.
All right, that was a very cool video. Thank you very much for linking me that, Jimmy Boy. I really appreciated that. It does not change my stance on the game at all, and not that I think that was your intent, nor do I think that was Metatron's intent. I'm boycotting this game purely on the principle of Ubisoft is a garbage company. Most AAA game companies nowadays are garbage. We should not be buying AAA games, or at least should not be pre-ordering them and buying them day one. But at the end of the day, I loved how he took. He very much did not play any political games, or at least it didn't seem like he did. Again, this is the first video I've actually seen by him, so I appreciate the historical context in which he was giving everything. He was doing it in what seemed to be an unbiased way, and a lot of the information that he's come across is pretty much the same information that I came across when before I set out to make my video on this same subject. He didn't mince words about the culture war aspect. He was very, he went in with good faith. And I also want to call out that we're going to end the poll now. And it was a very interesting poll. I put, do you care about the Black Samurai? 37% of you said yes. Fair answer. If that's something that's going to keep you from buying the game, stick to it. Those are your choices. I got nothing against that. 37% of you said you were in the middle, which is also, again, where I'm sitting. I obviously could not vote because it was my poll, but so in the middle would have come out as the winner if I was able to vote. So again, it's where I fall. I think there's so many more issues with this game besides Yasuke's presence in it, but I do think that will probably be an issue once we see the full context of the game. Right now, I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet, given that it's Ubisoft and how they do their DEI nonsense, yes, that is going to be a part of it. And then for those of you that voted no, that you do not give a shit, that's fine as well. I mean, you obviously know my stances on AAA gaming. You guys keep coming back to my streams and videos, so it all makes sense. We can all get along, because again, the only diversity I care about is the diversity of thought. We clearly have some diversity of thought there in the poll, so excellent.